Zombies is a really weird franchise. It came out in like 2018 and I never had the experience of watching it when I was younger because even young me thought it was so stupid. And I guess I was just too cool for it. But Zombies is incredibly... It is a movie about normal humans and zombie segregation. It's an insane watch. It's crazy. So I don't know what fueled me to do this, but I decided to take it into my own hands and the hands of my assistant to fix it. And honestly, I don't even know if it worked. It was an experience, and the reason this video is so short is because I just couldn't make it work. Zombies is so difficult to fix. You don't even know. You don't know. Right before we get into the video though, unlike my usual Patreon plugs, this time I want to talk about my Etsy real quick. We just had a big restock. We've got some new keychains and some pins and all that fun stuff. So go check it out if you want to support me. Thank you. Let's get into the video. First up, I have made the entirety of Zombies more mature in general. So it's not really like a preteen kids movie anymore. It's more probably a young adult fic. So everything is just a little bit more mature than it usually is. And I have to thank my friend Charlie for a lot of this because up until a few days ago, when I'm recording this, I had no idea how to wrap up the story and how to write the story. And Charlie saved me just a little bit, so shout out to her. One of the biggest changes is how the Z-bands work and how the initial outbreak happened. So there was still this big explosion in the lab that caused, the zombie outbreak. But instead of it being like feral zombies, they are normal people who have gotten infected with whatever this chemical was that just makes them a little antsy. They're sick people. They're not zombies, they're not dead, they're sick. They still have their minds, they still have their brains, they're just sick people who need help. And the government finds out about this little outbreak issue and collects all of these infected scientists and workers and starts to experiment on them, which these experiments range from chemical experiments and exposure experiments, and the experiments themselves make the zombies, quote unquote, more aggressive. And this aggressiveness is the only thing that is let known to the public. So the public has no idea that these are just sick people. They only think that these are monsters because that's the only thing that's being given to them. So now the zombies are out and they're with the humans, and the humans originally had a more spacious area for them to be in, but slowly they are pushed more and more to the very edge of Seabrook, where they are in the actual movies. And you have to think that with the fact that these zombies are able to reproduce, that small amount of space gets very, very cramped very, very quickly. Another thing is that the green hair and the grayish-green skin is genetic now. From the original group of zombies, the experiments and the chemicals had given them these traits and turned them genetic. So the descendants of these zombies are all going to have, the same greeny, gross skin tone, okay? The Z-bands work pretty much the same, except they release a toxin into the wrist of the zombie. So it's a chemical release now. It's not purely electronic, even though it's like controlled by electronics, right? With that all out of the way, let's finally get into the characters, because that's what I want to talk about here. So I made one big change when it came to the characters, and that was that Addison and Bucky are siblings now. They're not cousins, they're siblings. And the reason for this is because instead of Addison having this weird, I'm different because I have white hair thing, I've made her a genuinely incredibly insecure character. So Addison has grown up with her older brother Bucky, with her parents, and she's always felt overshadowed by him because he's like the golden child. He's an A+ student, he's amazing at cheer, and people just love him, and his parents give him this undying attention and affection, while Addison has realized that because of this, she's had to work 10 times as hard to even come close to the amount of attention and praise that Bucky gets. This makes Addison just desperate for her parents' approval, which means she will go to some strong lengths to get that from them, which will tie into her love story with Zed and what I've done to it, which I'll talk about in a minute. That brings us to Zed, who I actually didn't change that much, because I like Zed, actually. From watching the movie, the first one, I like him. He's silly, he's kind of me, I have to be honest. I didn't change any of the football aspects, I didn't change his personality that much. He's still the same character, he's just got a face up. I've decided that Zed and Addison have a little bit of a forbidden love story that's more than what they have in the movie. So, while Zed is almost instantly head over heels for Addison, Addison isn't as open to being in a zombie relationship as she is in the movie. She's more hesitant because of this craving for approval from her parents. So she's hesitant to love him. She's hesitant to dive in to being his girlfriend, and it's kind of really dramatic and sweet, and he's incredibly loyal to her very early on, because I like that trope and I like them. They could never make me hate you, Zed and Allison. The story timeline is still sort of the same, but I've changed just a few details. Number one is that cringe scene where Zed takes Addison to their zombie dance party. I've changed that a little bit to not being a musical zombie rave that it is in the movie. So Zed wants Addison to sneak out with him and takes her to the lab, where he lets her explore a little bit and explains to her what actually happened to the zombies, and that they're not just feral beasts. They were, like, the original zombies were just sick people. He explains this to her and takes her to the quote-unquote zombie light garden, which is a memorial for all of the zombies that they've lost in the past, and the ones that they lost in the initial outbreak. Also, I've changed it to where Bucky's friends are not the ones to hack into the Z-Bands. They contact Addison's best friend, Bree, who also wants approval, but in a different way. She wants it from the cheer team. So she's a little bit of a nerd, and they get her and they have her hack into the Z-Band somehow, so we don't have to have a whole Eliza being stupid and accidentally giving her computer to the bad people. I don't want to deal with that. So Bree does it, and it causes all of the zombies to go wild in the last football game that they do in the movie. But because I've made the story a little bit more mature, this Z-Band malfunction that happens to Zed makes him go insane. Like crazy. And he gets an idea that this was probably Bucky. This wasn't Eliza. This wasn't Addison. This was probably Bucky, the guy he's been butting heads with this entire movie. And he starts hunting him. I mean, like, Clicker from The Last of Us running at this guy. It's a really horrific scene, and he is very clearly out for blood. In my head, it's really scary. And he finds him, and he's about to sky when he finally gets pulled off of him. You know the, like, police scene in Wednesday with Morticia and Gomez? Imagine something like that with Addison and Zed. Mwah, mwah. But that's basically all I've got. That's all I could think of. And I don't know if I did anything good for the story. I don't even know how to wrap it up, because I don't want there to be some cheer competition that solves segregation. I don't know. I think I need to revisit it, and I think I need to think about it more. I don't know. I feel like I've failed, okay? I feel like I failed. Anyways, I think that they turned out cute. I think if I gave it more time, I could have done more with the two of them, but given the fact that I only had like a week to draw them and a week to come up with a story, I'd say that I did pretty good under the pressure I was under. Anyways, that's gonna be it today. I hope you guys liked this. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon, link in the description, or check out my Etsy, whatever's easier for you guys. And even if you can't support me financially, I love you regardless, and I'm so appreciative of all of you. I hope you all have a good day, and bye-bye!